This lesson is part of Media, Mobiles, and Ministry, which is a curriculum set of over 40 lesson plans covering 4 different topic areas: foundations of media ministry, mobile ministry, social media ministry, and do-it-yourself mobile media creation. You can find more information at www.mobmin.org/train.
This is lesson number 5 from the Social Media Ministry section of Mobiles, Media and Missions curriculum. The title is Listening and Learning on Social Media. My name is Peter. You're welcome. So what are our objectives? After taking this lesson, participants will know what social listening is. They will be able to identify main uses for social listening and outreach, and they will know how to use social media to identify current topics of interest among an intended audience, identify thought and community leaders as well as patterns of relationship among an intended audience, and learn more about the lives of people that they are in contact with in real life. The opportunity in social media isn't so much the gift of a tool we can use to send out our message, but rather the gift of a tool that enables us to get to know our intended audience better and develop God-glorifying relationships with them. But what is social listening? This is what the corporate world says. Social listening is the process of monitoring social media channels for mentions of your brand, your competitors, product, and any other ideas or themes that are relevant to your business. But what about from a ministry perspective? Let's rephrase this. Social listening is the way we use social media to get to know our intended audience better in order to be better able to speak into their world and connect the good news with their lives in a way that meets their needs, concerns, and desires. Social listening. Why? One way social listening can help you is by letting you see a different side of a person that you think you know in real life. One problem you may have in ministry is that the person you're sharing with or discipling is showing you an image of themselves that they think you want to see while hiding their true self, who they really are when they're apart from you. While social media fakes happen all the time, social media can also expose the fakes and allow you to see the truth of a person, who they are when they are not in front of you, who they are when they're interacting with other friends and family on social media. Here is one example from Central Asia. A young missionary doing language study in the capital of a country befriends another young man about his same age. As they get to know each other, they exchange Facebook details. The missionary was shocked to discover that the young man, who seemed so nice and friendly in person, was a major ISIS supporter with hardline extremist views and postings online. Another example comes from Africa. The young man was very polite and courteous in class and interested in learning more about other classes and opportunities that were available at the learning center. It was a complete surprise then to find, after exchanging social media contact details, that the man was actually part of an extremist group, and the staff had to reevaluate how they would interact with him in the future, as well as new security protocols that they might have to put in place. Social listening. Why? It can help you identify the intended audience members and initiate relationships with them, who they are, where they live. We can also use social listening to discover the webs of relationships among your intended audience. It identifies who represents or leads their community and who their thought leaders are. What does the corporate world say about thought leaders, or let's use the word influencers? So having a general picture of the social sphere for your industry, let's say ministry too, will give you a sense of who the important influencers are. But what's the importance of influencers or thought leaders? These are important people to have contact with, as they can have, not surprisingly, a significant amount of influence over how their followers and fans feel about you. Some questions that we can ask ourselves. What types of people are influencers in our intended audience? Is there more than one type of influencer for our intended audience? Let's remember about the person of peace. It's an important consideration. The person of peace is often an influencer on the ground, which might include religious leaders, tribal leaders, political leaders, maybe a poet, maybe a shop owner. These are people everyone goes to in order to find out what is truly happening. We can also use social listening to discover issues and themes that are of current interest, how people are discussing these issues, themes, as well as the range of viewpoints that exist about them. And getting to know your true face of your real in-life context is important, but how? How do we do it? We can simply first find and check out their social media profiles, or we can follow them on social media. For getting to know the face of your real in-life context, Facebook is still king for social media. If the profile is public, you'll be able to dig up a lot of information. You'll be able to go through their photos to observe their preferred activities and the company they keep. Any group memberships or pages that they like can help you determine their interests and values. However, let's note, if a Facebook profile is set to private, you won't be able to get much information, so you'll want to move on to a different social network. Who to follow? People to consider friending or following. Maybe friends, neighbours, co-workers, community leaders, local religious leaders, regional government leaders, artists, musicians, sportsmen, leaders in business and education. So by friending or following nationally recognized people or organizations, we can see what they are talking about and what is important to them. It is good for the discovery of current topics of interest and insight into how they are being discussed. We could follow people in the community and see what they're talking about. We could set up a Facebook profile specially designed for listening and interacting with members of our intended audience. Let's put this into practice. Why don't we grow a circle of local relationships on social media and join Facebook groups that involve people you minister among? Identify local community and thought leaders that are active on social media and follow them on Twitter or other platforms, or send a friend request to them on Facebook. Scan your social media feeds regularly to find out what people are talking about and how they are reacting. But most importantly, pray that God helps you to find an appropriate balance, as you run the potential risk of wasting time trying to set up the latest, the greatest, or even the gossip. On the other hand, much can be gained in increasing the timeliness and relevance of your gospel-steeped conversations by putting focused time into this kind of social listening on a regular basis. Creating an effective social media strategy is more than scheduling social media updates and monitoring your engagement. You also need to meet your audience's needs, answer their questions, and offer them what they want to know. We need to do a lot of listening, and keyword and hashtag monitoring helps us do this. Keywords help us find trends, common conversations, discover attitudes, and find influencers. Keywords that we could start with would be like Jesus or Christianity in the local language, your organization's name, or your city, town, neighborhood's name. On your own, one of the best ways to do keyword research is the old-fashioned way, by running a basic search on each platform. All the major networks have their unique search engines which filter posts. Getting to know what people normally talk about is important for outreach. Therefore, we must take note of what we hear from our findings, because we build from these. Additionally, various social media listening tools can help you see what people are sharing about in particular locations and show you the trending hashtags. There are many social listening tools out there. Just do a search of Google to find what suits your requirements in terms of budget, platform that you're using, etc. A few examples for following trending hashtags: TalkWalker, find out what's trending and tell better stories. RightTag is a cool tool. It's like having your own hashtag personal trainer. You'll need to sign in with your Twitter account first, but once you do that, the tool judges whether the hashtag you're using in your tweets is appropriate. Once you've identified trends, you next need to think of some way you can use these trends in conversations related to the subjects to help your contacts see more of God's will for their lives. Processing and acting on what we hear. One important result of processing what we hear will allow us to answer the questions that have the potential to define how we really do our ministry. On a practical level, when conversations take place, for instance, do people interact more during the week, at night, late night, on weekends? What are the differences in the subjects people talk about at these different times? On a general level, for example, what things do people feel positively about? What things do people feel negatively about? On a spiritual level, the things of Christ or Christianity, are they problematic, or are they seen as positive or negative by your intended audience? Now, after listening, hearing, and learning, we must stop. Take a moment to consider how we need to adjust our approach to sharing the message. What things will we talk about? What language will we use? Will we use quotes from secular people, or Christian jargon, or scriptures from the Bible? It's really important. Don't just use listening to increase your ability to speak relevantly to the issues of the day, but rather use the listening along with prayerful consideration to come up with ways you can make the things of Christ more relevant in people's real life. After listening to what the community is talking about, it's time to join the conversation. So we take what we've learned and use it to better glorify God both in our real life relationships and in our social media interactions. So now at this stage of this video, we will suggest that you do some learning activities, either by yourself or with a small group of people. Activity number 1. Sign into Twitter if you have Twitter, and use the Trends for You to find trending topics in the town, city, or region of interest. So once you've signed on to Twitter, on the right hand side you will see Trends for You, and you'll be able to put in or do a search. Activity 2. In the language script of your intended audience, search for keywords that might help you to connect with your intended audience members, their social media conversations. Keywords could include local sites, the people's ethnic, tribal name, local celebrities, etc. These activities require pre-existing social media connections with an intended audience already. So, activity 3. Using the social media account of your choosing, review your target audience's recent postings and determine the top hashtags and subjects that they are sharing or discussing. Activity 4. Put your findings from Activity 3 into use by choosing one top hashtag or subject and brainstorming a posting you could share that would add a little salt and light to the discussion. And lastly, Activity 5. For example, use Facebook to look through your target audience postings for content that is reshared. What type of content is more often reshared? Is it a text, picture, video, or a link to a web page? What are the tones of post? Humorous, angry, happy? What subject matter is often reshared? In summary, one of the most important things for us to consider is that learning and listening on social media is not necessarily blasting our message out. Listening and learning are required if we're going to do social media ministry well. Thank you for listening.